Hi everybody, Kurt here, and today I'm going to show you how to install the Blazin Billet heater hose relocation kit designed specifically for the 2008 and 2009 G8, GT, and GXP, and also the 2014 through 2017 Chevy SS. These are the components that make up the kit. These lines come fully assembled just as you see them here. We have the upper hose with the tight radius, and the lower hose has the larger radius. I'll be referring to these as uppers and lowers as we do our install. Each tube has a roll bead underneath the Gates hose for a nice tight seal. We use stainless steel ear clamps on all the joints. Other components include new constant tension band clamps for your water pump in your heater core, a two-piece clamp that secures the hoses to the right side fender well, and a zip tie to hold the wires coming out of the anti-lock brakes away from the hoses. So we've got David's 2008 G8 GT here, and we're going to get started on the install. So the first thing we're going to do is drain the coolant system. So we're going to loosen the radiator cap so that the radiator will vent when we drain it. This car's been sitting here overnight and it's nice and cool, so make sure your car is cool before you unscrew the radiator cap. Okay, I'm going to loosen the radiator drain plug and then slide my pan underneath it. There's a tether on the plug, so it doesn't fall down. It stays in place. And it's not important that we get all the coolant out of the radiator, so long as we're below the level of the thermostat. Okay, so I've drained the radiator and I put the plug back in it and tightened it up. And so now I'm going to drain the heater lines. And what I've done is cut up a water jug because I'm going to loosen the two bolts on the thermostat and drain it there. Put a water jug underneath there to try and catch as much coolant as I can to minimize the mess. So the plan is to just loosen this bolt and maybe leave an 1/8 of an inch gap there. And then loosen the top one. Let's see if I can't twist this a little bit. Get it to drain. So the next step is to remove the stud and the nut here that holds the ground cables, and also the bracket for the wiring harness. Just makes it easier to be able to move this around a little bit and take your old clamps off. Okay, next we're going to remove the bolt that holds the ground strap to this bracket underneath the ABS brakes. So we want to get the ground strap out of the way. Okay, now we can remove the heater hoses from the heater core. Okay, I was able to reposition that band clamp and then pull it back with my band clamp pliers. So now we're going to get in here and get these hoses off of here. One. Okay, now we'll go after the water pump. Much easier to reach and access here. And then the clamps at the firewall. Okay, I went ahead and put a rag underneath the hoses just to catch any residual coolant that will be in the hoses and the thermostat neck. This should pull off now, I hope. Okay, the next step is to pull this wire harness back a little bit to give us room for our new relocation kit. So if you look down here, you'll see where my Phillips head screwdriver is pointing, you see a small 8mm hole. I put a light in the fender well so you could hopefully see that. We're going to use that with the barb on the end of the tie wrap to pull that wire back. And these are releasable zip ties. So if you want, you can, if you pull it too tight, you can release it and reset it. So hopefully you can see that. I've got it looped around the wire harness. And now I'm going to put it in the hole and clip it. You can hear it snap. Okay, and then I can take the zip tie and pull that harness back a little bit. A little bit more. That should do it. What's going to happen is we're going to use this clamp and put it on that stud. And our lines are going to come through here and be secured right there to keep them away from the headers. All right. Okay, we're ready to install the new hoses. We're going to do the bottom one first. It's the one with the large radius here. And what I've done is taken some of the residual antifreeze out of the heater core, just smeared a little in the ends of the hoses so that it'll be easier for them to slip on. So what we're going to do is feed this through here. Oh, I've also put the clamps on, the new constant tension band clamps on both ends. So we're going to feed this through. It'll go underneath the wiring harness. And actually come far enough forward with this that we can slip this one down. I just lost my clamp. It's okay. So also what I've done is taken off the ignition wire for that number 8 coil pack and spark plug, just so I can slip this back in here easier. So now that I got that down, I can feed this back. Okay, now I'm gonna connect it with the water pump. Okay, so I retrieved the clamp I dropped and repositioned my camera because I realized about all you could see was my back in that first install, but I kind of wanted to just give you an overall view of how the hoses went in. So I'm going to do the same thing. This is the upper hose. You can see it has the small radius. So I'm going to feed it underneath the wiring harness, just like I did the lower hose, and come far enough forward with it so that I can get this end under the cowl. Get it started. There it goes. You can use your finger and feel behind there and make sure that the hose is up against the flange on the heater core fitting. Okay, I've repositioned the camera again, and now I'm going to slip on this last hose that goes to the water pump. This one is 3/4. All the others are 5/8. So this particular hose goes from 5/8 on the aluminum line end to 3/4 on the pump end. So that's it. Now we're going to install the clamp that holds the heater lines in place. I don't know what Holden's intentions were for this stud that they left sticking out here unused, but it works out perfect for this new relocation kit. So what you want to do is just slide the back on, the back of the clamp between the two hoses over the stud, and then you can pull these away and rotate that a little bit. Put that in place, and then put the other half on over the stud, and then with the nut supplied, put that on there. It's a 8mm by 1.25, I believe. It takes a 13mm socket. You just get it started with your fingers. And then you tighten it with a ratchet. You don't need to over tighten it. I'd say about 7.5 foot-pounds. Plenty tight. It's a serrated flange nut, so it's not going to back off. And then just take one last check of your lines. You can still manipulate the hoses a little bit. Everything looks good. So now, only thing left to do is to put everything back on that you took off, the ground straps, the bracket that holds the wiring harness to the front of the cylinder head on the right side, and then I've got to put the spark plug wire back on that number 8 cylinder for the coil and the plug, and it'll be done. And then we got to fill it up, of course. So let me wrap it up and then we'll put some coolant in it. Okay, so the only thing we have left to do is to fill the coolant system back up. I always like to put a paint sprayer in the funnel whenever I'm reusing coolant. I just picked up this funnel bleeder coolant kit from Amazon. Heard really good things about them, so I thought I'd give one a try. The funnel's full up to about here. I'm gonna fire it up and see if we can't get some of the bubbles out. So we just have to wait for the thermostat to open. We should start drawing some more coolant out of the breeze. Okay, I'd say we're just about full. Very few bubbles are coming out now. Feels like the thermostat is opening up. Lines feel warm. I don't see any leaks. I always like to turn the heater on so that I know as soon as we start getting heat in the cabin, I know that the heater core is full. So, I think we're just about wrapped up here. And what's left over of the coolant, I'll put in the reservoir, and we'll be good. Well, here's how it looks all wrapped up. You can see it's tucked in there nice and tidy. Still have access to all your spark plugs. Nothing in the way. And it looks so much nicer than having those heater hoses running over the top of your engine. As you all know, there's thousands of different aftermarket components on the market today, and this heater hose relocation kit may not work with your combination of aftermarket parts, so please study the video and make sure that it will work with your setup. And if you do decide to buy one, you can get them at blazinbillet.com. And thank you for watching.